We're going to start this video by first refreshing the whole database. So in the terminal here, just open a new one. And here let's type php artisan migrate fresh seed. Alright. Awesome. Now we have a fresh new database. Next, we're going to have to run our queues. And remember, if you're going to use our queues from this point onwards, we have to start the queue worker. Your php artisan queue work. Alright, now this is going to listen to the jobs and then it's going to run them when you send our messages. Right, next we're going to have to go in here. Let's create two new users. I opened two browser, Incognito and Chrome. Right, so after doing that, let's go to our chat list and create our first method for deleting. Let's open the chat list, the blade. In here, go to the drop down. We haven't touched this, but now let's go to our drop down. Here in the delete button, here we can just add a few attributes. On click, we're going to first confirm if the user actually wants to delete it or not. Here confirm, we're going to say, are you sure? The question mark. Here let's add or event dot stop immediate propagation. This is just going to ask, it's just gonna display a model for us to click cancel or continue. And here I'm gonna add a wire click there. We're gonna create this method delete by user. Alright, in here we're going to pass a parameter here, add single quotes. We're going to first encrypt this ID before we send it. So here do encrypt, here the conversation ID. This is to prevent users from changing this ID and deleting other users' conversations by mistake. Okay, so now let's go to our chat list in the backend. In here we have to create the deleted by user method. Make it a public. Here let's get the ID. Let me just show you how the ID looks like when encrypted and decrypted. Here dd pass ID and decrypt ID, so you can see the difference. Right, and here make sure it's delete by ID. Alright, now let's go ahead and check. Here refresh the page. Now if I click on delete, it's going to ask me, are you sure? I'll say yes. You see, here is the encrypted ID and the decrypted. So if you are gonna pass data from the input or something from the by user click, always protect the data. You know, it's very important. Okay, so now let's go ahead and actually start deleting our conversation. So let's go back. In here we can remove this. Here let's get the user ID. Let's auth ID. Right, now let's get the conversation. Here we can get the conversation model, find, then we can decrypt the ID. Right, next down here, let's get the conversation messages. Let's do each. We want to loop through each message so we can perform an action on each message of this conversation. Here let's do function pass message coming from here. I'm gonna pass it inside here, and I'm gonna use the user ID there. After the use, right here, create some brackets and then close it down there. Right, inside here we're going to perform some actions. Okay, say if the message sender ID is equals to the user ID, then let's do message update sender deleted at, you can say now. Here in the end add a semicolon. Here we can say else if message receiver ID is equals to user ID, and then add some brackets. In here we can say message update, here you guessed it, receiver deleted at now. Alright, so here this is just going to set the sender or deleted at to the current time depending on who owns the message. Right, after that, after marking the message as deleted, down here we're going to check if the other user has also deleted the message. Here receiver also deleted. So here we're going to get the conversation messages down here. Let's say where your function query you're gonna use, gonna pass the user ID. Alright, so after putting the user ID there, before the close tag of this in here we can just add brackets and then zoom out. Inside here I'm gonna use this query to check where sender ID is equals to user ID down here again, or where receiver ID is equals to user ID. Close that. Alright, here down, but I'm gonna check for now value. Where function query use user ID. In here before closing, let's just add like that. Alright, here I'm gonna get this query, check where now sender deleted that down here again, or where now here make sure that there's you point there, or where now receiver deleted at. Right after that we're gonna check doesn't exist. Add the semicolon there, also here add the semicolon. Okay, so this is just gonna check to make sure that all the messages have been deleted, and if that's the case, here if receiver also deleted, then we're actually gonna delete the conversation. Here conversation force delete. After that we're gonna return redirect route chat.index. Here add a comma. Alright, so here is the flow. We're gonna get the conversation and then we're gonna mark the conversation as deleted by this user, and then in here we're gonna check if the other user has also deleted the messages. If that's the case, down here it's gonna actually delete the conversation and then redirect to the chat index. Okay, so now if I try to delete, I think it's gonna give an error because here in our messages table there, right, we did not specify what to do when the conversation is deleted. So here let's just add cascade on delete. Here just gonna make this nullable, and then here we're gonna say now on delete, so that if the user is deleted, we're just gonna set this field as now. Here do the same, nullable, and then here now on delete. Okay, now let's go back to this one. Let's rerun this migrate fresh seed. Alright, so just right here you have to go back and then log in with the two users and open the browser. Okay, so now I've relogged in with two users after refreshing the database. Before we delete this conversation, for example, here let me just go to the database, let me go to conversations, and here the conversation exists here. So now with this user, let me click and then let me send a message, for example here, hi. You see the message is being received in the other user. Here let me also send another message, hello. In here with this user, now let me go ahead and delete this conversation. Here it's gonna say yes, I'm sure. You see the conversation is actually now deleted. If I increase this, if I zoom in this, the conversation is now deleted, but you can see it here, and we're gonna work on that later. Now if I go to the database, here the conversation, nothing happens. You see it's already it's still existing, but now if I go to the messages table, you see that here sender deleted that is now filled for this message, and also here the receiver deleted that is now filled. Alright, this is working fine, but now let's see what happens if I try to also delete the conversation from the other user. This other user in here, let me try to delete the conversation, click yes. You see that the conversation has now completely been deleted, nothing is appearing here. And if I go to the database and refresh this, you see all the messages are gone, and then also if I go to conversations, no conversation is there. So which means our code is now working perfectly. Okay, so now let's go to our next video where we're going to continue this deleting process.